Hi, it's Tara here, and I've got a story to tell you. It happened a few months ago, but it's still fresh in my mind. I want to share it to help you understand toxic behavior and when to stand up against it. I'm 32 years old and live with my husband Stephen, who's also 32, and our kitten. Stephen and I have been together since high school. We got married young and went to different colleges, but our relationship stayed strong. Next month, we'll celebrate 15 years together, but there's a hitch. My mother-in-law, Lily, won't be joining us. Lily never really warmed up to me. She has 2 sons, and she's always doted on them since they were born. In her eyes, no one is good enough for her boys. When Steve and his older brother C were kids, they enjoyed all the attention from their mom. They loved her a lot and didn't notice how controlling she could be. As they got older, Lily's controlling ways became a problem for her teenage sons. They weren't allowed to date or hang out with girls outside of school. Lily didn't let them have sleepovers with friends and threatened to punish them if they argued. Steve and Sean went to the same high school as me, so I knew them a bit. While Steve kinda agreed with Lily's rules, Sean rebelled. He often got in trouble for sneaking out and hanging out with girls. His mom even came to school once to threaten his girlfriend at the time. What Lily didn't realize was that Sean had grown a backbone and didn't listen to her anymore. He stood up for Jessie, his now wife, when Lily tried to scare her away and insult her. When they turned 18, they started avoiding Lily more and more. Lily wasn't happy about it at all. Stephen also thought Sean went too far. We were still new in our relationship, so I didn't say much to avoid arguments. But then Lily started targeting me. She did everything she could to break us up, even planning an expensive trip to Hawaii during prom week to keep us apart. Stephen did ask her to cancel the trip, but that was the only time he stood up to her. Whenever Lily criticized me and said hurtful things, Stephen didn't defend me. He even started believing her when she said I might cheat on him when we went to different colleges. We ended up taking a short break and Lily took Stephen out to celebrate our breakup. She never thought Stephen would come back to me. She was furious that we got back together. She kept harassing and humiliating me every chance she got. I tried talking to Stephen about it, but it didn't go well. Hey Tara, you know my mom is really disrespectful to me. I've always tried to be nice to her, but all she does is criticize me and call me names. I'm getting fed up with it. Can you talk to her about it? Tara, my mom's still upset about what happened with Sean. She's worried about losing me too. She just wants what's best for me and my future. Try not to take her words too personally. So you're okay with how Lily treats me? Seriously, Steve, remember when she tried to break us up? She only did that because she was worried you might cheat. If you had cheated on me, I would have been really hurt. She was just trying to protect me from getting hurt. Are you serious? She used your fears against you to break us up. How can you defend that? No matter what I said, Steve never saw things from my point of view. He always thought I was overreacting and believed Lily was just trying to protect him. He refused to believe me when I said Lily calls me to criticize me. He insisted Lily would never do such a thing and accused me of lying. Even Sean tried to talk sense into him. After hearing everything, Steve argued with Sean, saying he betrayed their mom. Things got weird between Sean and Steve. Sean ended up marrying Jessica, the same girl Lily tried to scare off. He invited Steve and me but didn't tell Lily about the wedding. Lily was furious and tried to get Steve to convince Sean to invite her. Steve, always siding with his mom, argued with Sean because of Lily. He almost didn't go to the wedding to support her. I said to him, "Are you really going to skip the wedding to support Lily? Remember what she did to Sean and Jessie in high school? She still complains about Jessie and blames her for taking Sean away. Why should they invite her to their wedding? Look, you don't know everything. It's all a big misunderstanding. Mom was just trying to do what she thought was best for Sean. She can get carried away sometimes, but she's willing to patch things up. We're family and we shouldn't hold grudges. It's their wedding, and they can choose who to invite. It's not our place to make demands. We should respect their decision. I know I can't change much, but that's why I'm not going to the wedding. I want them to realize they're making a mistake. I'll RSVP tomorrow. They'll still have time to reconsider." Stephen, if you skip the wedding, they might cut you out too. They've already done that to Lily. Are you sure you want to risk losing your brother over this? After a lot of arguing, he finally agreed to go to the wedding. I was relieved, hoping things might improve. He saw how happy Sean and Jesse are without Lily's interference. They even moved far away and had the wedding there to keep Lily away. When Stephen showed Lily the pictures, she lost it. She cried on his shoulder and made him stay with her for a month. He even canceled our trip to Colorado to make it up to her. I was really upset by how he handled everything. However, I knew our love ran deep, and breaking up wasn't an option anymore. I just hoped Stephen would see the truth about Lily's awful behavior. Fast forward to 2 years ago, Stephen finally proposed, and I said yes. Lily was upset but pretended to be happy for him. Later, I found out she refused to give him her engagement ring because she thought I was a gold digger and our marriage wouldn't last. I love the ring Stephen picked for me. We're both engineers, so we make good money. He could afford to buy the ring himself. Plus, I'd rather wear something he chose than have Lily's jewelry. Wedding planning was a mess. Lily kept getting involved in everything, from cake tasting to picking a venue. She had to have a say in everything. She didn't like my ideas and tried to change the theme. Lily said my vintage theme was boring and tacky. I ignored her, but Stephen didn't. We discussed every decision carefully. I finally spoke up. This is getting ridiculous. It's our wedding, not hers. Your mom needs to give us space to decide for ourselves. I don't want her input on everything. She hates everything I choose. You need to tell her to back off. Tara, Mom just wants what's best for us. She's been to more weddings than us. So her input could be helpful in the future. You know, she missed Sean's wedding. She just wants to enjoy mine. I'm tired of hearing that excuse. She deserved to be uninvited from Sean's wedding. That was all her fault because Jesse didn't let her interfere. I won't let her control everything. She's welcome to be involved, but she can't criticize my choices. This is our wedding, Stephen. She already had hers. After a lot of persuading, he finally told Lily to back off. She threw a fit but calmed down a bit. Unfortunately, Stephen still went along with a lot of her choices. I was sad at first, but I knew it was also Stephen's day, so I went along to avoid more trouble. I wasn't confident enough to stand up for myself, and Stephen was too influenced by his mom to think clearly. The wedding turned into another disaster when Lily showed up in a white dress that looked like a bridal gown. Thankfully, Stephen realized the problem and insisted she change before the ceremony. She pretended she didn't have another dress. But my maid of honor came to the rescue with a dress I had bought for her. Lily had no choice but to wear it. During the reception, she made tearful speeches about feeling like she was losing her sons to awful women like me and Jesse. She tried to make herself out to be the victim and criticize our relationships. It made everyone uncomfortable, even her own family. My maid of honor took the microphone away and tried to lighten the mood. On our honeymoon, Lily called us constantly, crying about feeling lonely. She called Stephen repeatedly, and when she couldn't reach him, she called me. "Where's my boy? What have you done to him? It's only been a month since the wedding, and you're already taking him away. No matter what you do, he'll always choose me over you. He'll never love you more than his mama." Lily, we're on our honeymoon. You can't keep calling us like this. Stephen's phone died, so he went back to our room to charge it. Why would I keep him away from you? I know how you are, Tara. All you want is his money. You can't stand the fact that he supports me. He sends me money and gifts every month. You want to isolate him so you can take all his money. But I won't let that happen. He's been taking care of me since his father died 10 years ago. Lily, I don't care if he supports you. You're his mom, so of course, he helps you out. I earn enough for both of us, so I don't want his money anyway. You need to stop accusing me. Shut up. You may fool him, but I know what kind of woman you are. Now give the phone to my son right now. I need to talk to him. Dealing with her on our honeymoon was just one of many tough conversations. When we got home, she cried for days because we didn't take her along. It was surprising when she scolded Stephen for going without her. But as usual, he focused on comforting her and ignored my concerns. I was slowly learning to handle her tantrums and speak up for myself. Things were okay until I found out I was pregnant. We were thrilled, and Stephen wanted to tell Lily right away. I was nervous, but I figured she'd be happy about her first grandchild. I couldn't have been more wrong. As soon as she found out, she started crying and yelling. She accused me of trapping Stephen with a baby to take him away from her. She even claimed I cheated on him and was passing off the baby as his. My husband tried to calm her down, but she wouldn't listen. I was tired of her drama by then. Her tantrums lasted for 2 weeks before she decided to visit us. She came early in the morning and let herself in with a spare key. Lily acted overly happy about the baby and even brought me gifts. Stephen thought she had finally accepted the baby, but I wasn't so sure. That evening, Lily offered to make us tea because it was chilly outside. Stephen was grateful for her kindness and gave me a look like he was saying, "See, I told you she's okay now." I decided to investigate. I excused myself and went to the kitchen to check on Lily. I saw her making tea and adding something from a carton. Both my husband and I are allergic to lactose, so we only use a specific brand of oat milk. The carton Lily used wasn't ours. She used the oat milk for one cup and the other carton for the other. I thought maybe she was just using a different kind of vegan milk for variety. But I was still uneasy when she handed me the suspicious mug. I panicked and switched cups with my husband when they weren't looking. We drank our tea, but Lily just smirked at me the whole time. Luckily, nothing happened that night. But in the early hours of the morning, I heard my husband throwing up in the bathroom. He kept going back and forth, and it woke me up. Eventually, he came out and lay down on the couch, looking like he was in a lot of pain. Lily came out too and looked worried when she saw him suffering. She started crying. That's when I realized she had used cow milk in our tea. I was furious, but first, I had to get Stephen to the hospital. I called 911, and they sent an ambulance. Stephen was in a lot of pain and almost passed out. We got to the hospital, and the doctor said he needed to stay overnight. When the doctor came for a consultation, I made Lily confess to everything in front of Stephen. She was worried about her son, so it wasn't hard to get her to admit it. The doctor shook his head and said Stephen needed to stay in the hospital for a day. Stephen looked troubled, and suddenly he started to see through Lily's actions. He was baffled by what she had done. He asked her, "Mom, you know I'm allergic to milk. Why did you use it? We don't even keep cow milk in our fridge. Why did you bring it here? And Tara doesn't drink cow milk either, you know that." "Stephen, believe me, I didn't mean to hurt you. I don't know how this happened. I know you can't have milk. I'm your mother." "Then why did you put milk in my tea, Mom? What happened?" Lily just kept crying in the corner. That's when I decided to tell him the truth. "I know why Lily brought cow milk into our home. You see, it wasn't meant for you. It was meant for me." "What? Tara, you can't have cow milk either. Lily knows that. Why would she bring cow milk for you? I don't understand." "Lily wanted to hurt me and our baby. I don't know why, but she wanted me to suffer. She gave me the cup you drank from. I switched our cups because I didn't want to risk our child's health. Turns out, I was right. There's no way she would do that." "You're lying, Tara." "Mom, say something. You told me you were happy for us. Tell me you didn't do this." Lily started wailing and screaming. It got so loud that a nurse had to take her out. None of us wanted her there anymore. Stephen was shocked and traumatized by what she did. He apologized to me and promised to keep Lily away from our lives. I comforted him as best I could and took him home the next day. I changed the locks on our house while he was in the hospital. He called Lily and told her we were cutting off contact for good. More crying and wailing followed. "Mom, after what you've done, I don't want you around. I've always defended you, but I see now how much you've hurt my family. I won't allow it anymore. You've crossed the line." "Stephen, please. I didn't mean for this to happen. I felt lonely because you were spending all your time with her. I thought the baby would make things worse. I just wanted to hurt her a little and make her suffer. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't change what you did. It's unforgivable. I can't even imagine what would have happened if Tara drank the tea you gave her. I'm disgusted with you, and I don't want to hear from you again. Leave us alone." With that, we started cutting off contact with her. She showed up at the house and tried to get in with her keys. When she saw we changed the lock, she started banging on the door. We called the cops and let them handle it. We blocked her on all our phones and social media. Sean and Jesse informed our extended family about the situation. Everyone was disgusted and appalled by her behavior. After discussing Lily's actions with me, Stephen, Sean, and Jesse, we decided to get a restraining order against her. We had evidence from our security cameras and her confession to the doctor. The order was granted quickly. So far, she stayed away but has tried to gather information from our extended family. No one has entertained her demands, and we've cut off financial support, so she had to get a job at Walmart. We're rebuilding our relationship with Sean and Jesse. Stephen and Sean had a heart-to-heart conversation and resolved their issues. Jessa and I were always close, so this brought us even closer. Thankfully, my husband has finally seen the truth and protected me from Lily. We're happy and eagerly awaiting the birth of our child. To be safe, I made it clear to Stephen that Lily won't have a relationship with our child. To my surprise, he agreed immediately. Our household is peaceful now that Lily's gone for good. We might move to Scene City after our child is born. I'm not sure what the future holds, but I know we'll face it together. I find solace in the understanding I share with my daughter-in-law. Following my husband's funeral, my mother-in-law, blissfully ignorant, bid me farewell with a radiant smile as she drove me away. However, the next day, panic painted her face when she visited my parents' house where I sought refuge. It was clear her scheme to secure my husband's inheritance had hit a snag. In that moment, the true gravity of ignorance struck me. My name is Emily. I'm 39, married to John, who is 2 years my junior. We have a daughter, Rose, in first grade. Living with my mother-in-law began a year ago after my father-in-law's passing. Concerned about her solitude in their spacious home, I agreed to the cohabitation. Initially, we split living expenses, offering some relief. Yet, unexpected challenges emerged as my mother-in-law started criticizing me for sharing household chores with my husband. She disapproved, asserting that it was unfit for the head of the family to engage in such tasks. Despite my role as the primary breadwinner due to a 2-year age gap with my husband, my mother-in-law remained oblivious to this fact. Frustrated, I pleaded with my husband to enlighten her about our financial dynamics, hoping to resume our shared responsibilities. However, he hesitated, revealing his reluctance to take on additional chores. Disappointed, I realized a new facet of my husband's character. Eventually, labeled a failure as a wife, I found myself shouldering all household duties alone, while my mother-in-law, a full-time housewife, remained oblivious to the imbalance. It's almost comical that she isn't fulfilling her role as a housewife, considering she should be sharing the household chores. With my husband now liberated from domestic duties, he started venturing out alone on his days off, donning casual attire despite claiming to be at work. Skepticism gnawed at me, questioning the authenticity of his purported work engagements. Moreover, on weekends, he began frequently checking his smartphone, leaving me curious about what captivated his attention. Despite my interest, he guarded his phone closely, leaving no opportunity for me to investigate. His supposed overtime hours were also inconsistent. He often returned home around the usual time or just an hour later. While suspicions of infidelity lingered, observing his routine on weekdays made me question the validity of such thoughts. A few months later, anomalies in my husband's behavior became more apparent. He had been consistent in contributing his share of living expenses, but now, instead of the customary $670, he was depositing only $600 or sometimes even $540. Perplexed, I confronted him about the financial shortfall, emphasizing my strict principles regarding money matters. With many years of marriage behind us, I expected a straightforward explanation. He nonchalantly attributed it to the company's poor performance, claiming a temporary reduction in his salary, making it challenging to meet the usual contribution. Doubtful, I pressed further, questioning whether financial cutbacks were a guise for unfaithfulness. Surprised, he vehemently denied any such betrayal, citing the presence of our family as a deterrent. While his response seemed sincere, the mystery of his weekend escapades lingered. Frustrated by the lack of clarity, I contemplated hiring a detective agency to unveil the truth. However, before I could take that step, a significant event unfolded a few days later during his work. A call from an unfamiliar number shattered the tranquility of my day. It turned out to be my husband's boss. The voice on the other end, the embodiment of concern, disclosed a distressing truth. John, my husband, had been in a traffic accident during a business errand and his life hung in the balance. The gravity of those words plunged my mind into chaos. The notion of danger to his life left me momentarily paralyzed, but soon reality snapped back. I promptly informed my boss, set aside any ongoing tasks, and rushed to the hospital, fervently wishing for his survival. Upon reaching the hospital, the devastating news awaited me. My husband had succumbed to the impact of a car collision while waiting for a green light at an intersection. Attempting to evade another vehicle that ran a red light, he stood no chance against the force of the collision. His instant demise left me grappling with an overwhelming torrent of responsibilities. Last year, I had experienced the rituals of wake and funeral preparations with the passing of my father-in-law. But then, I had my husband by my side. Now, I faced the daunting task alone. My grief-stricken mother-in-law, lost in a daze, proved incapable of offering assistance. She occasionally wandered away, seemingly seeking solace in places steeped in memories of my husband. The shock of losing both husband and son in rapid succession left her incapacitated. In the face of this tragedy, I resolved to be strong. I had to not only navigate the funeral arrangements but also prepare my daughter Rose for a future without her father. Breaking the news to Rose was an agonizing task. I explained that her father had been involved in a fatal car accident, leaving only the two of us to face the world together. Despite the uncertainty of her understanding, I felt compelled to share this harsh reality with her. As we progressed through the wake, the day of the funeral arrived, ushering in a new wave of emotions. The tension mounted, and I found myself unable to contain the flood of tears. My mother-in-law, seemingly concerned about my emotional state, approached me and uttered something utterly unbelievable. In the midst of my mourning, she callously suggested that since there was no blood relation, I should refrain from claiming John's inheritance and simply depart, leaving Rose behind. She even went so far as to question Rose's worth as my daughter, proposing that I take her when I leave. Her laughter accompanying these heartless words added an extra layer of shock. Struggling to comprehend such cruelty amid my grief, I decided to maintain composure until the funeral concluded and distance myself from my mother-in-law's callous remarks. Her smirking face lingered in my memory, fueling a desire for some form of retribution. Post-funeral, I meticulously prepared to depart, packing only the essentials for Rose and me. I approached my mother-in-law and declared my renouncement of any claim to John's inheritance, offering it to her without hesitation. Her face lit up with joy at the prospect, expressing relief and gratitude for my supposed understanding. She eagerly agreed, seemingly content with the arrangement, and happily retreated to her room, signaling the end of our association. As we left the house, I couldn't fathom the newfound happiness she exuded. Despite our initial decision to live together due to her loneliness, she now appeared content with our departure. The reasons for her joy remained elusive to me. Upon reaching my parents' house, I recounted the entire ordeal to my father, who was understandably outraged. He condemned my mother-in-law's actions, deeming her concern for inheritance immediately after John's death despicable. Concerned about our financial stability without the inheritance, my father pondered our future. However, I assured him that we would manage without it, having handled expenses on my salary alone for the past month or two. Expressing his concern for Rose's future and the importance of saving, my father generously offered us a place to live. Grateful, I accepted his kindness. Regarding my husband's inheritance, I revealed a document to my father that had recently arrived from my in-laws' house. A report titled John's Conduct Investigation. It contained shocking revelations about my husband's true nature. As I spent time at my parents' house on John's bereavement leave, contemplating our next steps, the doorbell incessantly rang. Irritated by the persistent ringing, I opened the door to find my mother-in-law looking pale and agitated. Confused by her sudden change in demeanor, I responded through the intercom, urging her to stop shouting. Her outburst about my knowledge of John's substantial debt disturbed the neighbors. Reluctantly, she acquiesced to a quieter conversation, but her unexpected visit begged the question. What did she want after proclaiming just the day before that we should no longer be in contact? I responded with cold detachment, stating that it concerned John's inheritance and suggested continuing the conversation inside. However, my mother intervened, adamantly refusing entry to someone who had callously told my grieving daughter to leave during a funeral. Concerned about shielding Rose from the discussion, I concurred with my mother's decision. Unyielding, my mother-in-law insisted on finding an alternative, leading us to agree to talk at a nearby cafe. Once at the restaurant, my mother-in-law wasted no time delving into the discussion. She accused me of leaving the house easily because I knew John was drowning in debt. I confirmed her suspicion, citing John's weekend work claims, perpetual smartphone proximity, and his sudden halt in contributing to living expenses as red flags. To clarify, I hired a detective agency that revealed his gambling addiction and mounting debts, information I learned just 2 days prior. Addressing her concern about my tears at the funeral, I admitted genuine sorrow for the loss but acknowledged that, considering everything, leaving was the right decision. Intrigued, she questioned the total amount of John's debt. Startled, I revealed a demand letter I received that day, a staggering $6,700, contributing to a grand total of $33,700 in debt. I warned her that unless she renounced the inheritance, she'd be burdened with the entire sum. Dismayed by the revelation, my mother-in-law stuttered, confessing that the inheritance from her husband was already spent, $13,500 on luxury items, anticipating John's inheritance. This expenditure explained her post-funeral shopping sprees. Realizing her financial recklessness, I acknowledged my inability to assist with her debt and urged her to handle the renunciation herself. I left, and in subsequent events, she managed to renounce John's negative inheritance, but the $13,500 debt remained. Attempts to seek help from relatives failed due to the rumors of her actions on the day of the funeral. In contrast, life for Rose and me took a positive turn. Despite Rose transferring schools, she embraced her new environment energetically. Living with my parents allowed me to focus on work, providing a stable income. We now spend quality weekends together, exploring shopping malls, visiting theme parks, and enjoying activities we couldn't during John's lifetime. Supported by my loving parents, our days are filled with smiles, and I am determined to sustain this newfound happiness. My name's Jennifer, and I'm 32 years old. I work in a busy city called New York, where people believe in working hard to succeed. My husband, Donnie, is 30 and works too. We got married 2 years ago. Donnie might seem a bit unreliable sometimes, but he's actually really kind. He's good at helping out with chores around the house. I'm a career-focused woman. I love my job and feel proud when I do well. In my job, if you work hard, you can move up. But there's a downside. Sometimes they might ask you to move to a different place. And if you want to have a baby, there's no rule about taking time off. Many women quit their jobs when they get married or have kids. I used to think the same way. I wanted to focus on my career and didn't plan on getting married. When Donnie asked me to marry him, I said no at first. I told him, I love my job. I'm in charge of a team now, but I want to go even higher. I can't imagine settling down or having kids. But Donnie understood. He promised we'd share the chores and wouldn't have kids. Eventually, I agreed to marry him because he was so understanding. Both Donnie and I work, so sometimes we don't split the chores exactly as we planned. But we help each other out, and I think we do pretty well. Sometimes my in-laws make annoying comments like, "You should focus more on your home than your job," or, "When are you having kids?" But it's not too bothersome because Donnie always supports me. Living with Donnie has been nice, and I've learned to enjoy being married. Then, one day, my boss, who's the head of our department, called me about a possible move to a different office. He said, "What do you think? You'd work at a branch office for a while, but you'd come back here after 2 years. You'd have a good position there, and if you do well, you'll get promoted when you come back. You might even become the first woman to lead a department. It's a pretty good opportunity, right?" Accepting or refusing this move could decide if I'll get promoted at my job. Everyone who's become a boss or higher has done a move like this. If I say no, I might stay in my current job, but I could also get moved to a less important position. Before I got married, I would have taken this chance right away, but now, being married made me feel hesitant. I told my boss, "Thank you for thinking of me. Personally, I'm interested, but since it involves moving, I want to talk to my husband first. Can I give you an answer after that? He said, all right, you're married. You can choose to go alone or move with your family. Talk it over. I'm hoping for a yes. When I got home, I talked to Donnie about it. I've been offered a job transfer. I might have to move to the countryside, but if I do well for 2 years, I can come back here. And if I keep doing well, I could get promoted. I want to take this offer if you're okay with it, Donnie. We can move together, or I can go alone. What do you think? At first, Donnie was surprised, but then he thought about it and said, if you take this transfer, Jennifer, your dream could come true, right? I can't move with you because I have my job here, but don't worry about me. Go for it. With Donnie's support, I told the company I'd go for the transfer alone and started discussing the details. They agreed to pay for my moving costs and offered some good benefits, like considering my travel days as work days. So I decided to accept the transfer to the branch office. I got the official transfer order and chose to live in a company apartment, which was affordable. On moving day, the movers had already taken my stuff, and Donnie came to say goodbye at the station. Thanks for seeing me off. I'll keep in touch and I'll try to come home as much as I can. Yeah, I'll be waiting. But remember, even though you're working from afar, don't overdo it, Donnie said. You too, I replied. It's time. Take care, okay, I'm heading out, Donnie said as he left. And that's how my life as a remote worker began. I planned to come home during holidays and quieter times, but things got rocky at the branch office right after I arrived. I won't take orders from a woman. How can I trust someone new like her? One of the local employees complained. I faced resistance from the staff there. They spread rumors about me, didn't listen to my instructions, and even ignored my calls. And then things got worse when a project I was overseeing had a big mistake because one of my team members deliberately kept me out of the loop. The subordinate who was responsible looked really shocked, but as the boss, it was my job to handle it. I had to fix the problem, apologize, and not only get things back on track, but also mend relationships with my team. My boss saw how tough things were for me and gave me some advice. I've been through a transfer too, so I get it. It might not seem fair, but you can't just push your way through. It's important to communicate well, understand others, and build relationships horizontally. So I followed my boss's advice. I spent more time getting to know everyone at the branch and even joined the neighborhood association since the company's housing was part of it. Before I knew it, I was so busy that I couldn't find time for myself, let alone go back home where my husband was waiting. I kept in touch with him, but after a few months of remote work, it got hard to reach him at night. I'm working late every day because work is tough. I get tired and end up falling asleep. As my husband made excuses and I got busier with work, I didn't suspect anything and focused more on my job. Once during a slow work period on a long holiday, I decided to go back home to New York on short notice. But I couldn't reach my husband by phone or text, so I returned from my remote work without telling him. When I opened the door to our home after a long time away, something felt strange. Then a woman I didn't recognize rushed to the door, saying, "Justin, welcome back. If I knew you were coming home early, I would have prepared." We both froze, staring at each other in shock. Finally, the woman spoke up, sorry, but who are you? And who are you? This is my house. Wait, what? I live here. After arguing and getting nowhere, we decided to check the house number outside. To my surprise, it matched the custom nameplate I had ordered. The key works, and the nameplate's right. This is my house. I'm going in, I insisted. Wait, what? Stop. Ignoring her protests, I pushed past her and entered the house. Inside, everything had changed. The curtains, the furniture, all of it. There was a photo of my husband and the woman at a theme park, mugs I'd never seen before, and unfamiliar toothbrushes and skincare items in the bathroom. The bed linens were different, and the wardrobe held only the woman's clothes. My husband's stuff was hidden away in a back room. As I stood there in shock, I heard the front door open. I'm home. Oh, Lola, did you invite a friend over? Justin, thank goodness you're back. This woman just barged into our house. The man the woman called Justin was definitely my husband, Donnie. Seeing me, he looked surprised. What are you doing here? Donnie, why is she calling you Justin? Can you explain what's happening? I asked him. What do you mean? This is Justin, right? Justin. Well, actually, my husband seemed flustered under our questioning. Lola, his real name is Donnie. Isn't that what's on your driver's license? And I'm Donnie's wife, Jennifer. That's not true. He told me he was divorced. Donnie, you need to explain everything clearly, I insisted. Jennifer, you were gone for so long, and I was lonely. So I thought I'd try a dating app, and that's where I met Lola, Donnie explained. So Justin is your fake name on the dating app? I questioned. No, it's not like that. I was worried if my real name came out. It might cause problems, so I used a different first name but kept my last name, Donnie clarified. And why did you lie about being divorced? I pressed further. Lola's profile said she'd never dated a man before and was serious about finding someone for marriage. It struck a chord with me, so I lied about being divorced to win her over. We started living together, Donnie admitted. Why would you do something like that? I asked, puzzled. At that moment, my husband began justifying his actions defiantly. It's because you're always away for work. It's natural for a man to want companionship. We've been living separate lives because of your job and the long hours. I just wanted a warm home where my wife would be there with dinner when I got back. I was shocked to hear this, as I always thought my husband understood and supported my career, but that doesn't excuse what you did. What you did was wrong. If you wanted to be with someone else, you should have ended our marriage first. Why didn't you do the right thing? I cared about both of you. I never wanted to leave either of you. After everything you've done, I was bound to find out when I came back. It's unbelievable that you thought you could deceive me like this. Well, it's your fault for not keeping your promise and coming back. If you had, I wouldn't have even thought about cheating. What on earth? I've told you how hard work has been, and you still did this. I yelled, feeling a mix of anger and hurt. Our argument escalated into a shouting match, with the woman my husband cheated with standing there, looking stunned. She realized she'd been tricked by a married man into his mess. So everything was a lie. You played me for a fool. I'm leaving right now, she exclaimed. Lola, wait, it's not what you think, my husband pleaded, but it was too late. My husband tried to stop the other woman from leaving, but she brushed him off, repulsed. Don't touch me with your filthy hands. I can't believe a single word you say. She cursed before storming out, packing her things and leaving for her parents' house. Furious with my husband, I decided to take action against his betrayal. Gathering evidence, I brought it back with me when I returned to work. The first thing I did was hire a detective to look into my husband's mistress. The investigation revealed that she was the daughter of an executive at a company partnered with my husband's workplace. I had a lawyer send proof of the affair to both my husband's home and the other woman's parents. When my husband received the documents, he protested, saying he didn't want a divorce. So I prepared for a tough legal battle, even considering going to court. The other woman's family contacted my lawyer, and we arranged to meet at their office. They apologized to me, and the other woman admitted her wrongdoing. We're truly sorry. Our daughter caused you so much trouble, and we didn't even know about it. She's always been very sheltered and naive about the world. We've been trying to arrange a marriage for her, but she wanted a more free-spirited love. She met your husband without our knowledge and got carried away without knowing who he really was. She thought she found a divorced man on a dating app and wanted to move in with him. We told her to stop seeing him, but she didn't listen. She was so caught up in her fantasies that she ran away from home to be with him. Our daughter was shocked to find out she was the other woman and blames herself. She's getting therapy now. We're willing to pay you $50,000 as a settlement and hope you'll keep this matter private. The other woman and her parents shook my hand firmly. I understand your apology, but I have one condition. I'm preparing for a divorce, but my husband won't agree. If you're willing to cooperate and provide testimony if this goes to trial, then I'll accept the settlement. Okay, we'll cooperate, but we don't want our daughter to have a permanent record of this. Is there any other way we can help punish him? Well, it just so happens that his workplace is our client. In an unexpected turn of events, the woman my husband cheated with and I teamed up. We planned to give him a taste of his own medicine. His workplace was about to face a crisis because he had upset an executive at one of their client companies. And guess who would take the fall? Only my husband. Meanwhile, back at home, his parents were trying to reach out to him, unaware of the chaos. Jennifer isn't answering our calls, and she won't call back either. Is she so caught up in work that she forgot about us? When is she coming back? We miss seeing our grandchild, his mother said. Mom, you don't get it. I cheated on Jennifer while she was away, and now it looks like we're headed for divorce," my husband confessed. His mother replied, "That woman who puts work before her husband is to blame. Maybe it's better if you end things with Jennifer and get back together with the woman you cheated with." My in-laws seemed to think that the other woman's family had more money than ours, so they sided with my husband and his lover, attacking me relentlessly. They called me repeatedly, but I blocked their calls. Then they started calling me at work. When I refused to talk to them, they showed up at my workplace, causing a scene. "Let go of our son. It's because of you being such a career-focused woman that our son cheated. He'd be happier with his lover, so stop interfering," they demanded. "What are you even saying? I want to divorce Donnie. He's the one refusing. Plus, the woman he cheated with doesn't want him back. He tricked the daughter of a big-shot executive into dating him, and they're furious. It's going to be a big mess," I explained. Once they realized their son had angered an important client, my in-laws suddenly changed sides and tried to be nice to me. "We had no idea it was this serious. We must have misunderstood. We're sorry. Our son messed up, but he feels bad. You'll forgive him, right, Jennifer?" they pleaded. "I have to decline. You just insulted me, and now you're asking for forgiveness? Please leave," I told them firmly. When they refused to leave, I had security escort them out. Because of the scene they caused, my company decided to sue them for disrupting business. After all the drama, I finally got the compensation from my husband and got the divorce. The other woman's family also demanded compensation for their daughter's suffering and therapy costs. With the loss of his job and having to pay hefty settlements, my husband was now in deep debt. He couldn't afford to quit, and he was trapped. 2 years had passed since my assignment started. When everything settled down, I finished my assignment successfully and was getting ready to go back to the main office. My hard work paid off, and I got promoted to department manager. If I hadn't taken the assignment, I might still be stuck in a loveless marriage. But I realize now that a man like him would have cheated sooner or later, and I would have clashed with his parents anyway. I've learned that I'm better suited for work than family life, and I'm incredibly fulfilled and happy now.
This house is really tough. My parents are both bedridden, and my older brother uses a wheelchair. Should keep your voice down, they might hear you. But I need to say it out loud. Imagine being in my shoes. I come home tired from work every day, only to find a house full of sick people. It's really sad. Lately, when my husband gets home, he starts complaining right away. I'm scared his complaints will wake my in-laws and Bill, who are sleeping in the other rooms. But Brian, you just lie down and ask about dinner and a shower. You never check on your family. I've been saying this. I'm exhausted from work and can't handle everything alone. If you won't help, you can't complain. Wait, are you misunderstanding something here? Misunderstand what? Taking care of the house is your job, isn't it? Who do you think pays the bills here? Don't act like you're better than me. You couldn't survive without me. My name is Rachel, and I'm 32 years old. I've been married for 6 years. I lost my parents in a car accident when I was in elementary school and grew up in foster care until I finished high school. After that, I found a job at a factory that makes electronic parts, which is part of a big company that makes electrical equipment. My husband joined the main company a year after I started working there. We met when he came to work at our factory, started dating, and later got married. Before we got married, my husband Bill worked as a freelance system engineer and lived alone in a rented apartment that he also used as his office. After we got married, we moved in with his parents. When I first met my in-laws, they welcomed me warmly, even though they knew I grew up in foster care. I had often felt looked down upon because I didn't have parents, so their kindness meant a lot to me. A few years ago, my mother-in-law fell ill and became mostly bedridden. I decided to quit my job and became a full-time homemaker to take care of her. On her better days, she taught me how to do household chores, which I wasn't very good at. Now I have 2 sons, and I always wanted to cook together with my daughter-in-law someday. I'm so glad you're here, Rachel. I often found myself thinking, if my mom were still alive, would we have spent time together in the kitchen like this? Sometimes when I made a mistake while cooking, my husband would criticize me, but my in-laws would eat quietly without complaining. She put a lot of effort into it, so just eat quietly instead of complaining. My father-in-law would scold my husband. Bill visited us only once a month, but he always had a smile on his face. He would bring sweets from famous shops and share them with me. He was always considerate and kind, like a real brother. Being part of their family made me truly happy. However, 3 years ago, when my father-in-law retired, my mother-in-law got pneumonia and became mostly bedridden. She had been looking forward to traveling with her husband after his retirement, so it was devastating for her. I did everything I could to cheer her up, my father-in-law, now retired, took an active role in caring for her. Bill also came over to help out, and slowly but surely, her smile returned. The next year, my father-in-law also fell ill. He spent about 2 months in the hospital, and like my mother-in-law, became mostly bedridden. Surprisingly, my husband didn't visit him in the hospital, but Bill visited often and helped care for him, which was a huge relief. Taking care of his father without complaint is only natural, Bill would say to me. On the other hand, my husband hasn't been helping with my mother-in-law's care at all, not even when I'm at the hospital. I have a job, you know. It's not like John's laid-back situation where he can stay at home, my husband argues. It frustrates me, but with John's help, we managed while my father-in-law was in the hospital. Now though, we have to take care of both of them. I thought it was normal to care for my in-laws, but it's disappointing that my husband isn't cooperative at all. Hey, could you pitch in a bit on your days off? I asked him. I think it would make your mom and dad happy. I don't have time for that, he replied. John doesn't even live here, but he always comes to help out. Why don't you do anything when you live here? That's because he doesn't live here. Be grateful I'm even staying here, my husband retorted. As time passed, my husband's language grew even harsher. I never realized he could be so hurtful, and my disappointment only deepened. John's visits to check on his parents and help with shopping and chores were a huge relief. I was starting to adjust to this routine, hoping we could make it work. But then John had a car accident and suffered a severe spinal injury. Now he's in a wheelchair. Why does everything bad keep happening? I lamented, feeling very upset. With John now in a wheelchair, he had to move back in with his parents. Another mouth to feed, great. Is this your fault? What are you talking about? Ever since I married you, it's been one disaster after another. Are you some kind of jinx? My husband exclaimed. His words made me wonder if there was some truth to it. Maybe I was bringing bad luck to everyone around me. Should I just disappear? But if I left, what would happen to my in-laws and John? I couldn't imagine my husband taking care of all three of them. Since John moved back in, my husband rarely came home. He spent long hours at work, had business dinners, played golf, or went out with friends on his days off. John is adjusting to life in a wheelchair and can manage some things on his own, but not everything. He's still the same kind-hearted person he was before the accident. Sometimes I wonder if he and my husband are really brothers. My in-laws and John have been hurt by how my husband treats me. They've even said I could leak him if I wanted to, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it. Then one night, my husband came home drunk and brought a woman with him. Hey, I'm home. This is my maid, my husband slurred, introducing the woman. Come on, she must be your wife. She actually looks like a maid though. Who are you? I'm Brian's girlfriend. He said he wanted to show me what his wife looks like, so here I am. I didn't expect such an old lady though, the woman said arrogantly. What's your problem coming to my house? Chill out. I'd brought Brian home because he's drunk. You could at least thank me, my husband slurred in response. Don't act so superior, maid, he added before passing out. Don't sleep here, Brian, she said, trying to wake him up. Oh well, I can't help it. I'll leave him to you, she shrugged and laughed. I was on the verge of tears, staring at my drunken husband snoring in the hallway. I wish I were just a maid. At least then I wouldn't feel so embarrassed. I could keep things professional. The next morning, I confronted my husband about bringing a woman home. What's the big deal? I'm hungover this early in the morning, you know. The woman who came back with you yesterday said she was your girlfriend. She said that, huh? Is it true? Yeah, it is, my husband smirked, showing no remorse. I felt my heart grow cold as he admitted his affair so casually. So you've been cheating? Well, I guess you could say that, but you're not even a woman to me anymore. What do you mean? Why do you think I married you? I thought you would make a good maid. My mother was often sick and I needed someone to take care of her when necessary. That's why I married you, plain and simple. I don't understand. A woman without a family won't complain, no matter how I treat her. You have nowhere else to go, so you have to stay here. Well, I didn't expect my father and brother would also need care. But whether it's one person or three, it's all the same. As my husband laughed and joked about it, I felt my strength draining away. Had he always seen me this way? The realization that he married me for these reasons brought tears to my eyes. Seeing my distress, my husband laughed again. I'll leave you here, so make sure you take good care of them and don't complain about whatever I do outside. You don't have the right to do that. You're just a housekeeper and a caregiver, my husband declared. I was too exhausted to argue further, and leaving wasn't an option either. Like my husband pointed out, I had nowhere else to go and no one else to rely on. But more than anything, I couldn't bear to abandon my in-laws and Bill, who had shown me such kindness. They had given me a sense of belonging and warmth that I had never known before. How could I possibly leave them behind? If I divorce my husband, I'll become a stranger to them. They're the only family I have, and I can't let go of that feeling, I thought to myself. Seeing that I couldn't argue back, my husband grew even more audacious. He didn't hesitate to use foul language in front of my in-laws and Bill. "I'm so unlucky, burdened by these three. I need to blow off some steam or I can't take it anymore," he complained. From my perspective, he wasn't doing anything to help around the house or with caregiving. Instead, he did as he pleased, including having affairs. It seemed like he was enjoying himself while I struggled. "Oh, well, I'm taking my paid leave next month and going on a trip. A trip to Hawaii with my girlfriend," my husband announced. "What? So it's a vacation with your girlfriend while I handle everything at home?" I responded incredulously. "You're technically my wife, but you're not my main woman. You're just a caregiver, so this isn't an affair trip." "It's a trip with my main woman," he explained casually. I was left speechless by his brazen declaration. There was no use arguing with him anymore, and honestly, I didn't have the energy to argue or to even feel angry anymore. I see. Do as you wish," I replied quietly. His announcement about going on a trip with his girlfriend didn't stir a hint of jealousy in me. It made me realize once again that I had no feelings left for my husband. The only reason I stayed was for my in-laws and Bill. I couldn't bear to leave them behind. That was all that mattered to me. My husband proudly shared his plans for a trip with his mistress with his family. But my in-laws and Bill looked at him with cold eyes. So the following month, my husband left on his affair trip, full of excitement. "You take care of the three of them without any trouble. That's all you're good for," he told me before leaving. Instead of feeling angry, I felt relieved that I wouldn't have to listen to his sarcastic remarks for at least a week. That night, I enjoyed a peaceful evening, and my in-laws and Bill seemed a bit happier. And then I slept well. The next morning, I woke up late and rushed downstairs. Oh no, I overslept. You must all be hungry. But when I rushed into the living room, I was stunned by what I saw. It felt surreal, as if I were still dreaming. Was this real? I had seen this scene so many times in my dreams. "What's the matter, Rachel? You look like you've seen a ghost," Mama said with a smile. "I think I need to wake up properly," I mumbled, turning to go back to my bedroom. "You're definitely awake, Rachel. This isn't a dream. We're in the middle of a strategy meeting," Mama reassured me. In the living room, there was a whiteboard set up, and Bill was standing in front of it, writing something. The board read, "Escape Plan." I couldn't believe my eyes. Why was Bill standing? Where was his wheelchair? I glanced around and noticed it folded up in a corner of the hallway. "Come on, Rachel. Don't just stand there. Come sit at the table," Mama urged me. Isn't this a dream?" I asked, still trying to grasp the reality of the situation. "Well, shall we execute the plan?" Phil said with a mischievous smile, standing up. Mama also rose from her seat, ready to follow him. I nearly collapsed seeing the three of them, who were supposed to be frail and bedridden, standing before me. And then a whirlwind week unfolded. When my husband returned from his trip, he called with an excited voice. "I'm at the airport now, heading home with my girlfriend. Have dinner ready. She'll be living with us from now on. Don't worry, you'll stay right here, taking care of us," playing the role of a housemaid for both me and her. "Oh, I see. Do as you wish," I replied quietly. "Then you're a pitiful woman, you know. You can't even complain when your husband brings another woman home. You have nowhere else to go, no family to rely on. You're stuck clinging on to me. Anyway, keep on serving me," he taunted. He seemed to be reveling in his own satisfaction, pleased that everything was going according to his plan. I remained silent. An hour later, I received a frantic call from him, a stark contrast from his earlier tone. "What? What's going on? What do you mean there's a stranger in our house?" "Oh, they must have moved in," I replied calmly. "Who are they? What are you talking about?" "Well, it's a rental property, isn't it? Once we moved out, it's rented to someone else. The real estate agent said he appreciated how well we kept the place clean," my husband explained. "What do you mean, we moved out?" "Our home was a rented single-family house we moved into when we got married. It was meant for us and my in-laws, with Phil covering the rent," I clarified. Indeed, most of our living expenses were covered by Phil. Initially, my husband contributed to utilities and other costs. However, as my mother-in-law and Phil's health declined, he started withholding his contributions, arguing that his presence alone was enough support. Bill had reservations about his brother's behavior but didn't feel he could say much after moving out. Then he had a traffic accident that left him partially paralyzed initially. He believed it would be a permanent condition but began recovering surprisingly quickly, though it seemed temporary. This prompted him to move back in with his parents. Despite my in-laws actually improving in health, Bill and Mama pretended to still be frail to deceive my husband. They started planning to leave the house, with Bill's help being crucial for their scheme. This led him to return home. My in-laws had secretly purchased a retirement home with their savings and retirement funds, preparing for the future. Bill handled all the paperwork while they decided on their move. Upon discovering my husband's trip with his mistress, they decided it was time to put their plan into action. I was completely taken aback when they revealed their plan to me. To make matters better, they had already arranged a place for me to stay, they said. I apologize for keeping this from you as well, Rachel. I thought you might not be able to keep this secret because you're such an honest person. There's no way to thank you enough for everything you've done for us, my in-laws said as they held my hand and smiled. I wish I could spend more time with them, I said tearfully. You have your own life, dear. You don't have to be tied down to us. My parents are in good hands with me around, Rachel. You don't have to worry about a thing. But you know you're always welcome to visit. You mean more to us than a real daughter. We sincerely pray for your happiness. I was so overwhelmed with gratitude and happiness that I couldn't stop crying. When I told my husband about this, he was speechless. He must have turned pale, as he had his eyes on my Phil's retirement funds. He used to tell me to get hold of my Phil's bank card. Now he realized that's not going to happen. Where am I supposed to live? What about my stuff? He demanded. You didn't have much stuff. The furniture and appliances belonged to my Phil. Your parents sold your belongings, including expensive bags and watches, and gave me the money as a down payment for alimony, I explained. Down payment for what? He asked, bewildered. It's alimony for all the verbal abuse you've subjected me to. And I'll also claim additional alimony for your affair, I asserted. What? I'm not paying alimony to a caregiver, he retorted. It doesn't matter what you say. Legally, I was your wife, so I have the right to claim alimony from both you and your mistress, I replied firmly. Well, that settles it, he muttered, defeated. Wait, where are you now? Let's meet and talk, he pleaded. No way, I never want to see your face again, and I'm not telling you where I am, I replied firmly. No way. I'll send the divorce papers and alimony claim to your office, I stated resolutely. After that, he made numerous attempts to contact me, but I blocked him. Despite his reluctance to proceed with the divorce, Bill hired a lawyer, and we managed to finalize it. I received a lump sum payment for alimony. As it turned out, the woman he cheated with was married to his friend, and her furious husband confronted him at his office, exposing everything. This led to my husband losing his job. The woman was also kicked out of her house after her affair with my husband was discovered before their trip together. Initially, my husband had planned for them to return home together, but their relationship fell apart. Unable to secure a new job, he now struggles with debts from his past lavish spending and alimony payments, juggling multiple part-time jobs to make ends meet. He asked my Bill for help, but of course, he refused and brushed it off with a laugh. Later on, I found a new job thanks to a referral from Phil, and I'm truly enjoying my work every day. I still regularly meet with my in-laws, who treat me like their own daughter. I always eagerly anticipate our time together. Additionally, Bill has found happiness with a wonderful woman whom he's marrying. She's incredibly kind, and they make a perfect pair. I was deeply moved when Bill invited me to their wedding. When he said, I would be honored if you could attend as my sister, I couldn't hold back my tears. I'm hopeful that I can maintain this wonderful relationship with my in-laws and Bill for years to come.
Don't come back here because my girlfriend and I are going to live in this house. On the day my 3-year-old daughter was finally allowed to come home from the hospital after being there for a month, I returned to find my husband living with another woman. I was shocked by his betrayal. Both he and his girlfriend laughed at me, mocking me. To make things worse, my husband had the nerve to call me back to clean up the house, essentially kicking me out. Furious, I talked to some people and made sure my husband and his girlfriend faced consequences for their actions. My name is Emily. I met my husband Michael through my sister's husband, and we lived together with our 3-year-old daughter. We built our house while I was pregnant. We chose everything together, keeping it white inside and out, which I really liked. However, white gets dirty easily, so it needs a lot of cleaning. My husband gets very upset if there is even a small stain. He gets angry when our daughter spills food or dirties the walls. But he never helps clean up. He just complains that the house is dirty. He always points out the tiniest details, and lately I've been getting really fed up with it. Initially, I quit my job and became a full-time housewife after we got married. But when our daughter started kindergarten, I decided to work part-time to save money for the future. Since I started working, I hoped my husband would help more with housework and childcare. However, he thinks that my part-time job is my own choice. So he continues to leave all the household and childcare duties to me, just like before. One day, after sending our daughter to kindergarten, my sister and her husband, who live nearby, were supposed to visit our house. I tried to tidy up as much as possible while helping my daughter get ready in the morning. My husband got annoyed that our daughter was touching things with her messy hands and called me before he left for work. complaining that I wasn't disciplining her properly. Even though he used to adore her when she was born, lately he looks at her as if she is something dirty. I try not to show my feelings in front of our daughter, but his attitude has been really upsetting me. Because my husband complained, I was running late to take my daughter to kindergarten and rushed to get back home to meet my sister and her husband. They had decided to visit just 2 days earlier when they called to see if I had time to meet. I thought they must have something important to talk about, but when I saw them at the front door, I realized it might not be good news. I invited my sister and her husband into the living room, and although they complimented our always clean house, their expressions remained serious. After I served them coffee, my sister's husband finally gathered the courage to speak. Actually, I've heard some not-so-good rumors about Michael. What he said next was unbelievable. Apparently, my husband was having an affair with a coworker. My husband was originally introduced to me by my sister's husband, but they weren't directly acquainted. It was through a mutual friend of theirs, my husband's brother. In other words, my brother-in-law. My brother-in-law's friend works at the same company as my husband, and he had heard some bad rumors from a colleague. One of the colleagues said that a female coworker had been going around saying she has a boyfriend in the company, and it seemed like she was talking about my husband. Just as my brother-in-law's friend was trying to discreetly find out if the rumors were true, he accidentally stumbled upon my husband and the woman together. They weren't even trying to hide it, openly flirting at the company. His friend was shocked, took a photo of them, and reported it to my brother-in-law. Then my brother-in-law told my sister's husband and showed him the photo. Even though my sister's husband initially couldn't believe it, he had to accept the truth when he saw the photo evidence. He had the photos with him, but I chose not to look at them. My sister and her husband apologized, feeling sorry for introducing me to a man who would cheat. Finding out about my husband's affair left me unsure of what to do. I had never doubted him before my sister's husband shared his story. Most of all, I didn't want to take my daughter's father away from her. But I also couldn't bear the idea of being betrayed. Just as I was about to discuss next steps with my sister and her husband, my phone rang. It was the kindergarten, informing me that my daughter had a high fever and needed to be picked up. It looks like my daughter is sick with a fever, so I needed to go pick her up. When I mentioned this, my sister and her husband, who had come by car, offered to come with me to get my daughter. The three of us went together to pick her up from kindergarten. When we got to the kindergarten, my daughter looked exhausted, and it was clear her illness was more serious than a common cold. Her cheeks appeared swollen, and her teacher mentioned that a classmate had MPS, raising concerns that my daughter might have it too. We hurried to the hospital and informed the reception about our suspicions regarding MPS, given her symptoms. They decided she needed immediate tests because there was a risk of complications. While waiting for the test results, I became anxious and tried calling my husband, but he didn't answer and didn't call me back. Soon after, we learned from the test results that my daughter had MPS and had developed meningitis. She was admitted to the hospital immediately and settled into a room. After getting an explanation about her hospitalization and seeing that she was asleep, I decided to go home to prepare for her stay. My sister and her husband offered to stay with her, so I called a taxi and headed home. Late at night, my husband finally returned my call. He sounded annoyed that I had called him while he was at work and said sharply, "Don't call me during work." I explained our daughter's condition, her fever, hospitalization, and meningitis diagnosis, but he didn't seem to grasp how serious it was. He responded dismissively, "You're with her at the hospital, so don't bother me with every little thing. I'll stay there for a while to be with her." "All right, I'll leave it to you," he said, and then abruptly hung up without expressing any concern for our daughter. As a result, my daughter stayed in the hospital for over a month. During that time, my sister, her husband, my parents, and even my in-laws visited us frequently, worried about her. Surprisingly, my husband never visited once. When it was time for my daughter to be discharged, I asked my husband to pick us up, but he refused, claiming he was too busy with work. I shared this with my sister, and she and her husband offered to drive us home instead. On the day of my daughter's discharge, my sister's husband drove us home. It was a relief to see my daughter back to her normal self after such a long ordeal. However, when we arrived home, I noticed my husband's car in the parking lot, even though he was supposed to be at work. Through the window, I could see the silhouette of a woman inside. My sister and her husband also saw it and were furious, convinced it was his affair partner. I stopped them from barging in, left my sleeping daughter with them in the car, and went inside alone. When I entered the living room, I saw a woman standing close to my husband, just as I had seen from outside the window. When my husband noticed me, he quickly moved away from her. But it was already too late. I had seen everything. "Hey, I'm back. Who's this?" I asked him. Instead of answering, my husband stepped in front of the woman as if to shield her from me. Ignoring my question, he demanded, "Why are you here?" I couldn't believe it. He had forgotten the day our daughter was supposed to come home from the hospital. "I told you today was the day she's getting out of the hospital," I insisted. "No way. You said it was tomorrow. You tricked me into coming back today." My husband's response made it clear he had been so focused on bringing his mistress home that he forgot about our daughter. The woman peeked around my husband, looked at me, and smirked. Then she remarked to him, "Is this your wife?" What a chubby old lady. Hearing that, my husband's attitude hardened as he declared, "Yeah, I've got a young and cute girlfriend now. We decided to live here together, so don't come back." He put his arm around his mistress, as if to emphasize their relationship. I recalled the moment my sister's husband had revealed the affair to me. Despite my initial hesitation about divorce, witnessing my husband's behavior during our daughter's hospitalization shattered any remaining love I have for him. He hadn't visited our daughter even once in the hospital, leaving me to handle everything alone while he took advantage of my absence to spend time with his mistress in our home. I had taken time off from my part-time job and was exhausted from running between the hospital and home. Instead of supporting me during this difficult time, he was flaunting his new relationship and demanding I stay away from our own house. I was forced to clean up after my husband and his mistress, who had the audacity to tell me not to come back home. Exhausted and unable to argue any longer, I quickly packed my things and returned to the car where my sister and her husband were waiting. As I left, my husband and his mistress laughed at me. In the car, I shared what had happened with my sister and her husband. They were ready to confront my husband, but I stopped them. I didn't want my daughter to witness a scene like that, so I asked them to take us to my parents' house instead. We found a warm welcome there, and my daughter gradually improved while staying with my parents. From the time our daughter started crawling, my husband seemed only concerned about cleanliness and rarely interacted with her. His affection for her was fleeting, and she likely doesn't have many memories of him being loving or attentive. She never expressed a desire to see her father or mentioned feeling lonely. I didn't have the energy to confront my husband when I left our house, but I couldn't let things continue like this. Now that my daughter was recovering and could possibly return to kindergarten, I started to consider what to do about my husband. One day, I got a call from him. Curious about what he wanted to say, I answered. He bluntly told me, "The house is dirty. Come back and clean it." Even though he should have been living there with his affair partner, it seemed like neither of them did any housework. My sister had mentioned she was young and likely hadn't lived on her own before, leaving household chores to her family. It was absurd for my husband, who had told me not to return, to now demand that I come back just to clean. His request struck me as incredibly selfish. I declined his request in disbelief. "You should clean your own house, or maybe that girl you're having an affair with can do it," I retorted, hanging up the phone. Despite my husband's persistent calls afterward, I ignored them all. I could only imagine his frustration on the other end, unsure of what would happen next. Later that night, after putting my daughter to bed with the help of my parents, I was folding laundry in the living room when I heard a commotion at the front door. Curious, I went to investigate. As I opened the door, I was shocked to see my husband and his affair partner standing there, completely soaked in red. Behind them, my sister and her husband, along with my in-laws, stood with stern expressions, ensuring they couldn't escape. My husband and his affair partner apologized, saying, "We are truly sorry." However, my sister, her husband, and my in-laws didn't accept their apology. What covered them from head to toe was not blood but tomato juice. After my husband had called me to clean the house, I immediately informed my sister, her husband, and my in-laws about it. My sister and her husband visited my husband first, while my in-laws, who lived nearby, drove over to his place. My sister and her husband tricked my husband into going to the garden, pretending they needed some gardening tools I owned. When he turned his back, they pelted him with tomatoes. Startled, he turned around, only to have more tomatoes thrown at his face. These tomatoes were overripe and very soft, sourced as waste from a farm owned by a relative of my sister's husband. They wouldn't have caused much physical pain upon impact, but their squishy insides splattered easily, which clearly affected my husband, who prized cleanliness. My sister and her husband didn't give him a chance to react and continued throwing tomatoes. The tomatoes not only hit my husband but also splattered against the pristine white walls of the house, causing chaos. As this unfolded, my in-laws arrived on the scene. My husband was now being bombarded with tomatoes by my sister, her husband, and my in-laws. Amidst his panic screams and flailing, his affair partner, curious about the commotion, appeared in the garden. Without hesitation, she too became a target for the tomatoes. Attempting to flee back inside, she was forcefully pulled back out by my sister and ended up running alongside my husband in the garden. I overheard everything while on the phone from the moment my sister and her husband showed up at my husband's place. Every time the walls outside got dirty, my husband would scream sadly, and his affair partner would join in crying and panicking. Eventually, my sister, her husband, and my in-laws threw all the tomatoes they had brought. By then, the two of them had calmed down completely. They were then walked to my parents' house nearby. Even though I can never forgive what my husband and his lover did, hearing my husband's pitiful voice and the lover's cries made me feel a bit better. It was almost funny to see them both so desperate, apologizing to me. My sister's husband came up with this plan. After my daughter left the hospital, I began to doubt my husband's behavior during her stay. I decided to set up the baby monitor we used when she was little in our bedroom. I suspected that if my sister's husband was right, my husband might have been bringing his lover to our house while our daughter and I were away. I was anxious that the hidden baby monitor, concealed near a houseplant, would be discovered at any moment. Fortunately, neither my husband nor his lover found it, and it captured everything they did. Since the day my daughter was in the hospital, it seemed like my husband was living with his lover at our house part-time. Each time I returned home, I saved the recorded footage as proof. After my daughter left the hospital and I confirmed my husband's affair, I confided in my sister and her husband about the video evidence and sought their advice on what to do next. They suggested involving my in-laws first. My in-laws live about a 30-minute drive away and are usually calm people, unlike my husband who often gets angry. So with my sister and her husband, I took the evidence to my in-laws' house. At first, they found it hard to believe that their son could cheat. However, when we showed them the footage, they saw undeniable proof of my husband being intimate with his lover. They had no choice but to believe me. What's worse, my husband was heard saying hurtful things about our daughter, like how she just makes a mess and isn't cute at all, and that he wanted to throw both her and me out. This revelation made my in-laws furious. They wanted to confront my husband immediately. But my sister, her husband, and I convinced them to hold off for the moment. When my husband found out I knew about the affair, he became defiant. We didn't want to give in to his wishes for a quick divorce, so we discussed with my in-laws how to come up with a fitting punishment. Seeing the evidence on the video, my in-laws were also deeply hurt and immediately agreed to our plan. After brainstorming together, we decided on a unique punishment, throwing tomatoes at him. This idea came from my sister's husband, who had studied in Spain and was inspired by the tomato festival there. We thought it would be satisfying because my husband really dislikes getting dirty, and throwing tomatoes wouldn't cause any harm. It was also convenient timing since my sister's husband's relatives, who are farmers, had an excess of tomatoes that were going to be discarded. Initially, I was taken aback by the unusual idea, but I soon realized that simply throwing tomatoes wouldn't suffice. I felt my husband deserved to experience some discomfort from being hit by tomatoes, so I agreed to the plan. My sister, her husband, and my in-laws were all set to carry it out. I wanted to join in throwing tomatoes at my husband as well, but I was still concerned about my daughter's well-being and couldn't leave my parents' house. Additionally, my sister and her husband felt guilty for introducing me to my husband, and my in-laws felt responsible for how they raised their son. So it was decided that the four of them would proceed with the plan without me. I made sure they promised to do it outside the house, not inside. Despite my disappointment at not being able to throw tomatoes myself, witnessing my husband and his lover in such a pitiful state, thanks to my family, was oddly satisfying. I had already informed my parents about my husband's affair, so when they were brought to my parents' house, They were visibly uneasy. I threw the divorce papers at my husband without looking him in the eye and said firmly, "Let's get divorced. I have all the evidence of your affair. You'll also need to pay child support." Upon hearing the mention of child support, the lover reacted with disbelief. It seemed she had been imagining marrying my husband, becoming a housewife, and living comfortably. Realizing that child support payments could burden her financially, she began denying any involvement, claiming, "I have nothing to do with this man." That's when I mentioned the footage from the baby monitor. At this point, the lover argued that it was an invasion of privacy, and my husband backed her up, threatening legal action against me. However, my in-laws, along with my sister and her husband, scolded them harshly. Still shaken from the tomato incident, both of them fell silent quickly. When I reiterated to my husband that he needed to agree to the divorce, he reluctantly began to complain. "I've been supporting you all this time, and as a housewife, you should obey your husband. You can't even clean properly. You were a useless wife. It's only natural that I cheated on you," my husband sarcastically remarked, mocking the idea of a part-time working mother being able to support herself. However, there was a reason why I decided to return to my parents' house this time. It wasn't just because my parents and my sister and her husband welcomed me back, but also because I was offered a full-time position at my part-time job. When I informed my husband about this opportunity, he clicked his tongue in frustration. That's when I made it clear to him that my daughter and I would never return to that house again. Predictably, my husband started complaining about who would clean the walls of the house. But ultimately, it was his infidelity that caused all of this, and he was entirely at fault. When he demanded that I pay for cleaning the exterior, my in-laws had had enough. They disowned him right then and there for bringing up such trivial matters at this point. After being disowned by my in-laws, my husband unexpectedly proposed to his mistress. Covered in tomato and feeling humiliated, she had lost all affection for him, and the idea of paying child support added to her rejection. She bluntly told my husband, "I'm not interested in a man without money," leaving him stunned. Under our stern gazes, my husband reluctantly agreed to our divorce. We informed them that we would continue discussions through our lawyers, and then we sent my husband and his mistress away. I'm not sure what they discussed on their way back, but apparently they ended up angrily arguing and parted ways, cursing each other out. Afterwards, my husband ended up living alone in our house, struggling to manage the mortgage and child support payments on his own. He tried seeking help from his brother, but was coldly turned away and cut off from his family. Now he had no one left to rely on. Meanwhile, the mistress faced repercussions from the rumors about her relationship with my husband. She ended up quitting her job, and when her affair was discovered by her parents, they disowned her just like my husband's family did to him. She was kicked out of her parents' home and now lives in a cheap, run-down apartment. During the day, she works part-time, and at night, she works in a nightclub to make ends meet. My sister once spotted the mistress working at a store's register and remarked how much weight she had lost and how aged she looked, despite being in her early 20s. It's heartbreaking to think about how a single mistake could dramatically alter someone's life and rob them of so many potential happy moments. As for me, I've started working full-time with the support of my parents, sister, and her husband, who welcomed me back to their home. It's challenging at times, but I'm beginning to feel a sense of achievement as I take on more responsibilities at work. My daughter has settled into living with my parents and is thriving each day. When we lived with my husband, she struggled to get along with adult men, likely due to his yelling. Now, she's gradually overcoming that thanks to the kindness shown by my sister's husband and my father. Surrounded by a caring family, my daughter and I are now enjoying a peaceful and happy life. I divorced my husband because he cheated on me 3 years ago with my younger sister. They sent me an invitation to their wedding. My mother said she would attend, and I felt betrayed by her too. Then she said, "I'll do something fun, you just wait and see." I had a plan to punish the two of them. My name is Emma. My husband and I worked in the same company, and I was his boss. He was a bit unreliable but sincere and friendly. I was responsible for training him and teaching him the job. At first, he was nervous about the new work, but over time, we grew close. "Yuma, are you free on our next day off?" he asked me. I was surprised when he asked me out on a date, but I was excited to see how confident he was outside of work. It made my heart skip a beat. After that, we often went out together. "Emma, will you be my girlfriend?" he asked. 6 months after we officially started dating, he could handle his work all by himself. He had become a valuable part of our company. I felt as happy as if it were my own success when other bosses praised him. He then got promoted and moved to a different department. That's when he proposed to me. "Emma, I want you to marry me." "Yes, I'd be happy to," I replied. My parents and younger sister Kate immediately liked Liam, and our wedding went smoothly. Kate, who was the same age as Liam, got along with him right away. "You're so lucky to marry a kind man like Liam. It seems like people at work have high expectations for him, right?" Kate said. She had just broken up with her boyfriend and was yearning for marriage, always telling me how jealous she was of me. After our wedding, I continued working and taking care of the household, supporting Liam both at work and in our personal lives. At least I thought I was supporting him. About a year after our marriage, he started coming home later and later, and we hardly ever had dinner together. "Hey Liam, we haven't talked about work lately. Is everything okay?" I asked. "Nothing's wrong," he replied tersely. "But you've been coming home late every day. If there's anything I can do to help." "There isn't," he cut me off. He used to share everything with me, but recently he seemed annoyed whenever I brought up work. On his days off, he'd either sleep all day, claiming exhaustion, or head out to clear his mind. Feeling like we weren't spending enough quality time together, I made a suggestion to Liam. "Hey Liam, how about we go to a spa together during the next holiday?" My sister recommended a place to us. I suggested. "A spa, huh?" A spa is a place where we can relax and recharge our bodies and minds, especially from the stresses of work. Seeing Liam busy, I took the initiative to make a hotel reservation that included a spa. A week before our planned spa trip, I asked Liam, "What time should we leave next week for the spa?" "Huh? Oh, is the spa trip next week? I forgot to mention I have a business trip scheduled for that weekend." "What? But you've known of the spa trip for a while now." "Well, it's work, so I can't really change it, can I?" "I see." Liam's department seemed busier than ever with frequent business trips. It seemed like I had no choice but to give up on the spa trip this time too. As usual, Liam left early in the morning for his business trip. If things had gone as planned, we would be on our way to the spa together by now, I thought sadly. While feeling down, I received a phone call. It was from the hotel where I had booked a reservation. Despite sending a cancellation email, they didn't receive it due to an error and called to confirm our arrival time. That's right, I thought. I might as well invite Kate. I called my parents' house, but Kate had been out since morning and wouldn't be back soon. So as a last resort, I decided to invite my mother to the spa. Compared to my sister, I had almost given up on the idea that my mother would be able to go on such short notice, but surprisingly, she agreed. "Really? Is it okay to leave Dad alone?" I asked. "Right now, I'm more worried about you than your father," she replied gently. It seemed she had noticed I'd been feeling down lately and chose to join me on the trip. "Thanks, Mom." "I should be thanking you. I'm happy to be on a trip like this with you." I decided to make the most of the trip with my mother, which was a rare treat. However, as soon as we arrived at the hotel, my mother and I noticed something unusual. "Mom, look at that." At the hotel, we spotted Liam, who was supposed to be away on his business trip. He was walking closely with another woman, both looking happy as they entered the same hotel where we were supposed to stay. As they walked in, the woman turned her face towards us for a brief moment. "You've got to be kidding," I whispered in disbelief. The woman with Liam was my sister Kate. After that moment, shock took over and I have vague memories of how I made it back home. My mother made me some tea, which eventually helped me to start calming down. He had been lying to me, and not just Liam, Kate had deceived me too. After calming down, I called Liam's department. As I suspected, they hadn't been assigning business trips or much overtime for years. When I shared with my mother the days Liam came home late or was away on supposed business trips, it turned out Kate wasn't home on those days either, a detail that struck me. All those times he was late or away on trips, he was meeting Kate, wasn't he? I realized with a surge of anger rather than sadness. With the truth revealed, anger consumed me. "Mom, I'm divorcing Liam. I don't want to see Kate, so I won't visit home for a while." She stayed silent but understood my decision. I made all the preparations just before Liam returned. I organized the divorce papers, arranged a new contract for my own house, packed my things, and moved into a temporary apartment before settling into the new place. At our home, I left a letter along with the divorce papers for Liam. I specified that all legal matters, including alimony, would be handled through my lawyer, and I blocked all forms of communication with him. To keep my new address private from Liam and Kate, I didn't inform my parents. Since we worked at the same company, we occasionally crossed paths, but I avoided any interaction with him completely. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Liam quickly agreed to the divorce. He didn't disclose the reason to anyone, but our colleagues seemed to gather it from my behavior and wisely avoided discussing the matter. 3 years went by with me keeping my distance from both Liam and my family. One evening after work, I found my mother waiting for me in my room. "Mom, what's going on?" I asked. "I have something to show you," she replied, holding out an invitation. "It's from Liam and Kate." To my surprise, Kate had left our family home and moved in with Liam. I had considered the possibility they might marry, but I never expected them to actually have a wedding and invite our parents. "So, Mom, are you planning to go?" I asked her. "Of course I am," she answered firmly. I understood that I was the only one who still couldn't forgive them. It seemed they knew this, which was why they had only invited our parents to the wedding. Having distanced myself from Liam and my parents, I felt I had no right to object. Seeing my sadness, my mother smiled reassuringly and said, "Don't worry. I'm not going because I forgive them. Just wait and see." On the day of the wedding, my mother video called me. "I don't want to see their faces," I said, almost hanging up. But I remembered my mother's earlier words and stayed on the call. The screen displayed a slideshow that was being presented. The MC began introducing the slides. This slideshow was created by the bride's mother. She gathered photos from her beloved daughter's birth to the present and created this presentation, the MC announced. I was taken aback that my mother, who wasn't very tech-savvy, had put together such a slideshow. It stirred up a mix of emotions inside me. "Mom, you went through all this effort for Kate." I wondered, feeling a wave of sadness. But then something caught my attention on the screen. "Wait, this isn't Kate," I realized. The slideshow began with a photo of myself as a newborn baby. "So cute, there's a resemblance to Kate somehow," the guests commented in a relaxed atmosphere as they watched the slideshow. Kate's expression grew tense. The MC continued, "Since she was young, the bride has always been dedicated to her family. She excelled as a student and successfully entered her desired university. Upon starting her career, she became a highly reliable employee at the company." Kate's friends and colleagues, who recognized moments from her student days and workplace, began to chatter excitedly. "Hey, isn't that a photo from the welcome party at University J? Kate didn't attend such a prestigious university, did she? Wait, isn't that a photo from the company's welcome party? Hold on closer inspection it looks completely different. Wait, if this isn't Kate." Liam also appeared to have noticed. "What the hell is this? This isn't Kate." Unaware of the bride and groom's shocked expressions, the MC continued to progress through the slides. And then she met the groom, Liam, at the company. According to the bride's mother, she initially trained Liam when he joined the company. Eventually, the two got married. Following this introduction were photos from my wedding with Liam. The MC couldn't hide their confusion, sensing something was amiss. They fell silent. It was then that my mother stepped forward and took the microphone. "Allow me to take over from here and explain," she said calmly as she advanced the slides. "Even after marriage, my daughter supported him both personally and professionally. However, as Liam became increasingly busy, he struggled to find time for her. So my daughter planned a spa trip to help him relax." "Wait, please." Kate cried desperately, her face pale, trying to halt my mother. Ignoring Kate's attempts, my mother continued with the slides. The next photo showed Liam and Kate entering the spa hotel together, looking very close. Finally, photos of the bride and groom appeared, and both the MC and the guests fell silent. Liam and Kate appeared even more pale. But Liam declined my daughter's spa trip invitation, citing a business trip he had to attend. He claimed it couldn't be helped due to work commitments. My daughter invited me instead, and it was during that trip that we discovered his affair. With those words, the room erupted into chatter and speculation prompted by my mother's revelation. Wait, an affair? And this wedding is for Kate and Liam. Could this wedding be based on their affair? But why would Kate's mother? To address the guests' inquiries, my mother continued in a measured tone. Liam swore to marry my beloved daughter Emma and promised to make her happy. Instead, he betrayed her by having an affair with her own sister, Kate. Mother, please stop. Today is supposed to be my wedding day. Can't you celebrate my happiness? Kate cried, pleading with our mother to halt. Ignoring Kate's pleas, my mother stared coldly at her and replied, I've always wanted you to be happy, but you were the one who shattered that first. Emma always considered not just herself, but the happiness of our family. What about you, Kate? Have you ever considered how much Emma would be hurt by your actions? Well, she always seems so content. It's not fair. So instead of being happy for your family, you just got jealous, huh? My mother-in-law retorted sharply. Mother-in-law, please stop. She's your precious daughter too, isn't she? Can't you celebrate our new beginning? Why are you doing this? Kate pleaded, clearly distressed. I can't accept someone as dishonest as you into our family. Today's ceremony made that clear to me. If you truly wanted to start anew with Kate, why didn't you invite a single person from your own company? If you're going to have such a grand wedding, shouldn't you apologize to Emma? It's selfish to invite me and her father without making any effort like that. But Emma has been ignoring me all this time, Liam protested. Of course she has, after what you've done. It's only natural, my mother-in-law replied firmly. But that's all in the past now, isn't it? Do you think her wounds will heal in just 3 years? And do you think you can regain our trust in such a short time? Don't be ridiculous. My mother's voice echoed angrily as she and my father left the wedding venue. I could hear her speaking through the phone. Did you see that, Emma? She asked. Yes, I replied. I'm sorry for bringing up painful things. I couldn't stand seeing those two act as if nothing happened, she explained. No, thank you. I feel relieved. It's like you said everything I wanted to say, I admitted. That's right, Emma. You always keep everything to yourself. I thought it was too kind of you not to tell your colleagues the reason for your divorce. Later, my mother sent me a recording of her conversation with Liam from the wedding. Indeed, as she had said, time doesn't easily heal such wounds. Moreover, Liam showed no signs of remorse, dismissing it all as a thing of the past. I decided to enact my revenge by exposing Liam during a company presentation. I signed up quickly when I saw he was scheduled to speak and soon found myself in the conference room. When it was Liam's turn, his supervisor, unaware of his remarriage, commented, Liam, you seem even more motivated today, freshly married. Yes, I'm dedicated to doing my best for my family, he replied cheerfully. He must have known I was present, but that only fueled my determination. I played the recorded audio I received from my mother. The room was startled by the sudden noise from the recording. As they learned about his affair with my sister during our marriage, accusations started flying. Liam, didn't you claim the divorce was due to different values? I couldn't help but burst into laughter. Oh really? Did you say something like that? Well, I can't comprehend a value system that includes cheating with your wife's own sister. I apologize for bringing personal matters into this important internal presentation. As of today, I have decided to resign. I have endured this because I value this company, but I cannot continue working alongside him any longer. Just as I prepared to leave, the board members intervened to halt my departure. Wait a moment, Emma. You're a crucial asset to our company. If anyone should leave, it should be Liam. Huh? But I was considered to have a promising future here. We held high hopes for you in the past, but recently your attire has been less formal and you seem less focused. It appears you have lost the problem-solving abilities you once demonstrated. We don't have the same expectations for you as before. Kate, who had always been inept at housework and had done little even while living with our parents, became a full-time housewife after marrying Liam. Apparently, she left most of the household chores for him to handle. Without my advice to guide him through work challenges, Liam began causing more problems. Word of his affair with his wife's sister spread throughout the company, damaging his reputation. During a board meeting, it was decided that I would stay with the company while Liam would be transferred to a remote location with the expectation of eventual layoff. Kate, who had been enjoying a comfortable life as a housewife on Liam's earnings, quickly abandoned him upon discovering the affair and moved on to another man. Unfortunately for her, the new man turned out to be a typical freeloader burdened with debt. Now she is struggling. working two jobs day and night to make ends meet. As they say, what goes around comes around. When you do wrong, it eventually catches up with you. Watching Liam and Kate face the consequences of their actions, I finally felt ready to begin a new chapter in my life.
Didn't I mention I was going golfing with my boss today? Geez, don't bother me for things like that, I exclaimed frantically when I called my husband. The response I received was cold and distant. Just moments before, I had received news of our daughter's involvement in a car accident. She was reportedly taken to the hospital, and despite the urgency of the situation, my husband, who was out golfing, showed no signs of concern. "What are you talking about? She's your daughter too," I exclaimed, but his demeanor remained unchanged. "I don't care. Golfing with my boss is more important than she is," he replied. My name is Catherine, a 42-year-old homemaker living with my husband, Bob, and our daughter. Bob, 3 years my senior, works for a major company downtown. We met at a party thrown by a mutual friend, and his dedication to his job as a business person attracted me. When Bob asked me out, I was over the moon, and his proposal day felt like floating on cloud 9. After getting married, I quit my job to focus on household chores, enjoying our newly life. A year later, we were blessed with a daughter named Emily. Raising her wasn't easy, but my mother-in-law, who had lost her husband and lived alone, was always there to help, a blessing indeed. Emily is now in her sophomore year of high school, studying hard, active in school activities, and enjoying her teenage life with friends. However, a noticeable change occurred in our harmonious family life about 6 months ago. It started after a long weekend when Bob planned a trip with his colleagues. Emily and I spent the holiday just the two of us. On the last day of the holidays, Bob returned and we had dinner together as a family for the first time in a few days. During dinner, Emily nervously approached the topic of her plans after high school. She had consulted with me while Bob was away and had already decided to go to college, which I supported. However, contrary to expectations, Bob grimaced and replied dismissively, "Why should I care? Do whatever you want." Taken aback by his cold response, I unintentionally let out a gasp. Bob immediately left the table without clearing his plate, stomping off to his room as if in a bad mood. Left behind, Emily and I were puzzled by Bob's unusually distant behavior. "I wonder what got into Dad. Did I say something wrong?" Emily asked. "He's probably just tired from the trip. We'll discuss your plans another time." I tried to console her. Although Emily seemed uneasy, she accepted my explanation. However, the following day, Bob's cold attitude persisted. From that point onward, he blatantly ignored Emily, refusing to engage in any conversation with her and consistently acting indifferent. Moreover, he started spending more time away on weekends, causing a significant decrease in the time we spent together as a family. Discussing Emily's future became an impossible task given the strained atmosphere. Feeling consistently ignored and without understanding why, Emily began to resent her father. Even my attempts to mediate proved futile, and their relationship worsened. Concerned about the situation, I consulted with my mother-in-law, who had a good relationship with Bob. She even tried to scold him, but it only made Bob angrier, leading him to snap and retort with a dismissive, "Mind your own business." To make matters worse, he blamed me for discussing the issue with my mother-in-law. On the night she came over after Emily locked herself in her room, Bob yelled at me, accusing, "Why did you talk to my mom?" "Don't meddle. It's because you've been cold to Emily, isn't it? Why are you ignoring her now? You used to dote on her so much." When I mustered the courage to ask why, Bob just glared at me with annoyance and didn't provide an answer. No matter how hard I tried to mediate between the two of them, Bob's attitude remained unchanged. Time went by without knowing the reason for his sudden change, but considering the shift in behavior after his return from a long weekend trip, it's reasonable to assume that something happened during that time. Perhaps someone filled his head with nonsense. Unable to figure it out on my own, I decided to talk to my mother-in-law and investigate the reason for Bob's change. Then, one Sunday, both Bob and Emily were out since the morning. As I carried on with my usual housework at home, I received a call on the landline just before noon. It was an unknown number, and with suspicion, I picked up. To my surprise, the caller claimed to be from the police. "Are you related to Emily?" the officer asked. "Yes, I'm her mother." "Oh my God, did something happen to her?" I inquired with a sinking feeling. The officer's response was unexpected. "Actually, the bus Emily was on got into a traffic accident," he explained, leaving me momentarily speechless. I felt a wave of dizziness, and my hands, holding the phone, started to shake. Emily had informed me she was going to the mall with friends, and apparently she was on the bus at the time of the accident. According to the officer, a car from the opposite lane crashed into the bus, and Emily and her friend were taken to a city hospital. After hearing the details of the accident and hanging up, I was in shock and couldn't move for a while. However, I knew I had to inform Bob quickly. I rushed to call him on my cell, and after more than 20 seconds of ringing, Bob answered, grumbling, "What is it?" Ignoring his tone, I frantically conveyed what had happened to Emily. "Bob, this is serious. I just got a call from the police. The bus Emily was on got into an accident, and she's apparently been taken to the hospital," I explained, tears streaming down my face. But ignoring my panic, Bob coldly responded, "So what? What do you want me to do about it?" Seeing no signs of him being disturbed and feeling as if he couldn't care less, I got even more frustrated. "What are you saying?" "Please head to the hospital now." "I'm going to." Before I could tell him the name of the hospital, Bob cut me off, saying, Didn't I tell you I have a golf outing with my boss today? I'm staying overnight and coming back tomorrow morning. Can't help it." True, he had mentioned a golf outing a few days ago, but I was shocked by Bob's lack of concern about our daughter's accident. "How can you even say that, Bob?" "Emily is your daughter," I pleaded. Bob replied, "I don't care. Golf with my boss is more important than her. You go to the hospital on your own," before hanging up abruptly. I tried calling back immediately, but it seemed he turned off his phone. I sent a text, but given his attitude, I doubted he would reply. Even though they had been distant, Emily is his flesh and blood. How could he be so heartless? This incident completely shattered my trust in Bob, and I was certain I couldn't continue living with him. I decided on divorce, but heading to the hospital was my top priority. So, I hurriedly left home. As he had declared, Bob didn't come home that day, staying at a hotel alone because the golf course was too far away. He even took the next day off work. When Bob came home the next morning, he was surprisingly cheerful. It was hard to believe for a father whose daughter had an accident the previous day. "Hey, what happened to Emily? Is she hospitalized?" Though Bob asked about Emily's condition, his casual tone made it clear he wasn't genuinely concerned. I sat in the living room, and when Bob noticed my downcast expression, he asked about Emily. Looking up at the sky, I replied, "She's there." For some reason, Bob seemed pleased, saying, "I see. Well, that's a relief. Once Emily's funeral is over, we can get divorced right away." With that, he pulled out a piece of paper, an invoice from a lawyer specializing in divorce procedures, and thrust it in front of me. It served as both a contract for lawyer consultation and already had his signature on it. Though Bob appeared quite prepared, having already decided to divorce him, it might have saved me some hassle. "All right, I got it." I quietly agreed to the divorce. Bob didn't discuss the reason for the divorce. He just walked away to his room without saying anything else, as if he was done with me. The Bob who once cherished Emily and valued our family was gone. It was a harsh realization, but I didn't feel sad, only an increasing resentment towards him. I then called my mother-in-law and informed her about Bob's return and the lawyer's contact. Within an hour, my mother-in-law arrived at our house, and Bob returned to the living room. As soon as my mother-in-law saw Bob, she approached him with tears in her eyes, questioning, "Bob, What were you doing when your family needed you the most? I never thought you'd be this cold-hearted. Even when scolded by his mother, Bob showed no remorse, stating, I had prior commitments. What can I do? And it was all her making a big fuss. Looking at me with a mocking attitude, he continued, I've been dying to get divorced. With Emily gone, I feel so relieved. Now I can leave without any regrets. Unable to tolerate it any longer, I shouted, thrusting a few pictures at Bob. The pictures depicted a man and a woman intimately together. The moment he saw them, Bob's face turned pale. The man in the pictures was unmistakably Bob. Stammering, he asked, Where did you get these pictures? I calmly replied, They were taken yesterday afternoon. Weren't you supposed to be at a business golf outing? Instead, you were with a young woman. What were you up to? Confronted, Bob averted his eyes with a frustrated look and began making excuses like, She's just a colleague from work. We just went golfing together. I sighed in disbelief, remarking, Golfing in such fancy clothes. I don't think so. I already know you're cheating, so save your breath. The word cheating made Bob's face stiffen. His inability to deny it immediately was telling. But this wasn't the first time I learned of Bob's affair. Recently, he often left the house without telling me where he was going. After discussing with my mother-in-law and obtaining financial help, I had hired a private investigator. The investigation revealed that whenever he went out, he met the woman in the photos exposing his affair. His so-called business golf was a complete lie, and he probably stayed at a hotel with his lover. I had more evidence of his affair. I even have a video of you and that woman coming out of a hotel. Don't think you can get out of it, I declared. When I said that, Bob looked pleadingly at his mother, but she already knew of his infidelity and firmly shook her head in disapproval. To cheat and not even visit Emily in the hospital, and then to selfishly rejoice, thinking she's dead. I don't know how you'll face your father, my mother-in-law said with a mix of anger and sorrow. Bob froze in shock, his mouth agape. Wait, Isn't Emily dead? He stammered. I explained to a bewildered Bob, Don't jinx it. You misunderstood. She's very much alive. The injuries from the accident were just minor scratches. Emily was taken to the hospital yesterday, but she was fine and had no major injuries. The accident wasn't severe, so she came home the same day. Bob misunderstood my comment, looking up to the sky. She's there, and assumed Emily had passed away. Emily is on her school trip as planned. She'll be landing soon, I continued. A school trip. Bob was taken aback, his eyes wide. Bob, who didn't care about his daughter, had completely forgotten about Emily's school trip. The trip started today and was for 3 nights and 4 days. Emily had gone shopping for it yesterday, and the doctor had said that there wouldn't be any issues with Emily going on the school trip, so she left as scheduled this morning. When I told Bob that Emily was up in the sky, probably boarding the plane, I used those words to indirectly blame him for not worrying about our daughter. Oh, that's what happened. Well, I'm glad Emmeline is okay. I hope she enjoys her trip, Bob said nonchalantly. How can you say that now? You knew how much she'd been looking forward to this trip since sophomore year. But I guess you'd be just as happy if she had an accident. You probably forgot all about it. I sternly rebuked Bob, who tried to feign laughter. I didn't have a shred of affection left for him. No matter what he says in the future, I'm never going to trust Bob again. Just then, an email notification popped up on Bob's smartphone. After reading the message, Bob's body began to tremble with anger. Shoving the screen in my face, he shouted, Hey, what the hell is this? I looked at the screen with my mother-in-law, and it was from Emily with a concise message. I can't consider someone who prioritizes his affair over his family as my father. I'm cutting ties with you. It was as if she was sending a message to a stranger. It seemed that Emily learned yesterday about Bob's lie about playing golf when he was actually meeting his mistress. She probably sent the email after landing. Being bluntly disowned by his 17-year-old daughter, Bob's face, which was pale just moments ago, turned a deep shade of red from shame and anger. He glared at me and began yelling, "This is all your fault. Weren't you the one who cheated first?" I was completely lost. "What are you talking about? When did I ever cheat?" I protested. "Jessica told me," Bob said. "Jessica? Who's that?" Then it hit me. The detective agency found out that Bob's mistress was named Jessica Accord. According to Bob, Jessica had filled his head with baseless lies about me when they first started their affair. She told him that I had cheated on him and that Emily was fathered by someone else. The detective agency confirmed that he began his affair 6 months ago, right when the relationship between Bob and Emily started to sour. Since Jessica works at the same company as Bob, they likely started their affair during the long weekend. Jessica had been spreading outrageous lies, saying I had cheated and had Bob raise Emily, a child fathered by another man. But Emily doesn't look or act anything like me. It's natural for me to have doubts. Both my mother-in-law and I were rendered speechless at Bob's outburst. Thinking Emily wasn't his because of Jessica's lie, he began to resent her and treated her coldly. But he didn't want to divorce because he didn't want to pay child support. However, mistaking Emily's accident for her death yesterday, he was relieved, thinking he could divorce without any complications. "You've got to be kidding me! So you believed a lie your mistress cooked up over your own family?" I shouted angrily. Bob responded with a dismissive laugh. "I don't care whether it's true or not. I'm going to divorce you and be with Jessica." Before I could retort, my mother-in-law stepped in with a stoic face. She sighed deeply as she locked eyes with Bob. I realized she was livid. "I wonder where I went wrong raising you. I'm so ashamed. Did you forget that Emily looked just like you when she was a baby? She's definitely your child," she said. "I told you, I don't care about that anymore," Bob retorted defiantly. Right then, someone knocked at the front door. I went to answer and brought the guest to the living room. Bob looked puzzled. The visitor was a man in a suit around our age. Bob rudely asked, "Who the hell are you? Are you her lover or something?" Unfazed, the man handed Bob his business card with a smile. Bob accepted the business card with disbelief. But the next moment, his eyes widened in surprise as he read, "Lawyer." Yes, he was the lawyer I had hired with the help of my mother-in-law. I had consulted him about Bob around the same time I had the detective agency investigate. I had asked him to come over yesterday, anticipating that Bob would do something rash given the situation with Emily. I suspected it had to do with Emily, and I had a feeling Bob might have done something unthinkable. I instructed Bob, "Call your mistress over right now." Bob started panicking and asked, "Why would Jessica be involved at this point?" The lawyer chimed in, "It's quite unreasonable to say she's not involved. Call her now." Bob had no comeback to that, realizing he had no way out. Reluctantly, he contacted his mistress. About 30 minutes later, a young woman arrived at the house. Jessica, in her 20s, probably took a personal day off from work just like Bob. She approached us with a disgruntled look, saying, "What's this all about? I've got nothing to do with your family issues." Despite Jessica's refusal, I informed her that I was divorcing Bob and that even if she stayed with him, he'd have to pay child support to Emily, who was about to go to college. "I have nothing to do with this," she insisted. However, the lawyer promptly responded, "We have plenty of evidence of the affair. Plus, you fed Bob some nasty lies which resulted in irreparable damage to Catherine and her family. That's defamation, and we could sue you for it." By the time the lawyer finished explaining, both Bob and Jessica had turned pale. Realizing they were out of options, not wanting a court battle, Bob agreed to pay child support properly. We went through a divorce, and later on, I heard that Bob's company found out he had been using his boss as a cover for his affairs. The whole company was appalled by the way he handled the situation, especially when they found out he pretended to be happy about his daughter's fake death. Exposing his true nature led him to resign from his position. Finding a new job proved difficult as word of Bob's misconduct spread within the industry. Although he managed to find part-time jobs, his pride got in the way, leading to constant issues with colleagues, and he quit frequently. The savings set aside for Emily's future had already been spent on his affair with Jessica. Soon after our divorce, the two broke up, and Jessica apparently quit her job too. But now that's none of my concern. Struggling, Bob turned to his mother for help but was denied. He even tried to cozy up to me and Emily, saying, "Please, I was wrong. Let's start over, the three of us." Of course, we rejected him, blocked his contacts, and moved to a new place with the help of his mother. Now his mother lives near us, and we continue to maintain a close relationship. I have no idea what became of Bob, and I never want to be involved with him again. Freed from the stress of the troubled relationship with his father, Emily has been thriving in high school. Now, as a senior, she got accepted into her first-choice college. "Congratulations, Emily. You did an amazing job," I said. "Thanks, Mom. It's all because you and Grandma supported me," Emily responded, tears streaming down her face. "Since the college is commutable from our home, we plan to live together as we always have." I managed to find a job shortly after becoming a single parent and now work full-time. We have enough savings to cover Emily's tuition. I'm hoping for a bright future as we move forward, living happily with our family. Hi, I'm Billy, 28 years old. I married my husband Carl just 2 years ago, but the journey has been far from smooth, thanks to his mother Helena. Our relationship began when Carl and I met at a bar. A right time, right place scenario. We hit it off that night, exchanged contact information, and started texting nonstop. Even staying up until 5 a.m., our relationship remained undefined for a while. But eventually, we decided to make it official after getting more attached to each other. While my relationship with Carl was great, the hiccup came in the form of his mother, Helena. She was a formidable force who always got what she wanted, even if it meant resorting to questionable methods. Though admirable in some contexts, it became a problem when she set her sights on getting rid of me. Helena never approved of me, convinced I was after Carl's money, despite the fact that I earned more than he did. Helena never concealed her dislike for me, always being rude and insulting, albeit behind my back. She went to great lengths to hurt me, from sticking her leg out to trip me to purposefully spilling drinks, either ice cold or scalding hot, on me. Initially, I dismissed these incidents as accidents, but the pattern became too apparent to ignore. Approaching Carl about it, I expressed my concerns. He was adamant that his mom loved me and dismissed my worries as me being upset over her lack of full approval. However, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I questioned if he would stand up for me if his mother truly disliked me. Carl reassured me, attributing her behavior to overprotectiveness and suggested giving her more time. Reluctantly, I decided to follow Carl's advice and bear with Helena's antics. I made a conscious effort to be on my best behavior whenever she was around, hoping that, as Carl predicted, she would eventually come around. Whenever I visited, I maintained a reserved demeanor, only speaking when spoken to. It felt like I was transported back to the 18th century, but I was determined to do whatever it took to win Helena's approval. One day, out of the blue, Helena called me herself, a departure from her usual practice of contacting Carl. My heart raced as I answered the call, unsure of what to expect. "Hey, Helena, everything all right?" I asked, my voice tinged with uncertainty. "Oh yeah, of course. I was just wondering if you're free this weekend," she replied. "Yeah, why?" I replied, trying to hide my surprise. "Great. I was thinking maybe we could go out together," Helena suggested. "Us? As in, you and me," I clarified, taken aback. "Yes, I know I've been tough on you, but I want to make up for it," she explained. "Ah, of course. Where will we be going, and at what time?" I inquired, still trying to process the unexpected invitation. "I was thinking we could grab lunch at 1 in the afternoon at Sant. It's my favorite restaurant of all time," she answered. "Sounds fancy," I remarked, feeling a mixture of nerves and excitement. "Oh, it is. So, you better dress well," she teased. "I will. I'll see you there then," I confirmed before ending the call. I couldn't believe Helena wanted to go out with me. It was strange, but I focused on how my efforts were finally paying off. Despite her previous hostility, she needed time to warm up to me. I shared the news with Carl, who was relieved that the two most important women in his life were finally getting along. As the weekend approached, I eagerly awaited our lunch date, planning my outfit meticulously. When the date arrived, I chose a beautiful pantsuit that Carl assured me Helena would approve of. Upon arriving, Helena scrutinized my attire with a hint of disapproval. Nevertheless, I remained optimistic, grateful that she wasn't berating me for my choice. Once inside the restaurant, we were promptly seated, and our waitress approached. Something about her seemed familiar, and then I saw her name tag, Daisy. It clicked in my brain. Daisy was my childhood best friend. We were inseparable growing up, practically sisters. However, life took us in different directions when her family moved away during 7th grade. Memories flooded back as I recalled our tearful goodbyes and countless sleepovers. Despite the distance, our bond remained strong, but eventually our lives diverged. We both made new friends, and our once frequent contact eventually dwindled to nothing. Over the years, I occasionally reminisced about our past, but as time passed, I gradually forgot about her. However, fate had other plans, as there she was, working as a waitress in the upscale restaurant where Helena had invited me. As Daisy approached our table to take our orders, it seemed like she recognized me too. We exchanged pleasantries, and as she cross-checked our orders, she accidentally spilled water on me. Apologizing profusely, she discreetly left a note on my pants. Confused, I glanced at her, and she subtly nodded towards the note while continuing to dab at my lap. Curious, I discreetly read the note, which urgently asked me to come to the washroom. Puzzled and concerned, I excused myself and made my way there. After a brief wait, Daisy walked in, ensuring the stalls were empty before hugging me tightly. Surprised, I reciprocated and greeted her, expressing my delight at seeing her again. As we caught up, Daisy hesitated, indicating that there was something important she needed to tell me. "What's wrong? Is everything okay?" I inquired. "With me, yes, but with you, it's not going to be," Daisy replied, concern etched on her face. She explained that she overheard Helena, who was sitting in front of me, discussing plans to poison her daughter-in-law's food with something she was allergic to. "Holy crap, that's your mother-in-law?" I exclaimed, shocked by the revelation. "Yeah, and I'm pretty sure she was talking about you." "I wanted to be careful about any other woman she might bring here," Daisy clarified. "What in the world are you talking about?" I asked in disbelief. "I overheard her planning to poison her daughter-in-law. I'm warning you just in case." "Run," Daisy urged, her expression grave. "Wait, are you sure it was her?" I questioned. "Hold on," Daisy said, producing a discreetly recorded conversation as evidence. While cleaning their table, I discreetly placed my phone in my shirt pocket, slowing down my cleaning process. Daisy, sensing the urgency, quickly found the video on her phone. As described, the footage revealed Helena and her friend Betty talking disparagingly about me, labeling me a disrespectful daughter-in-law incapable of caring for myself or their son. Helena even boasted about tormenting me to put me in my place, referring to my efforts to gain her approval as pathetic. In the video, Helena outlined her plan to test me by surreptitiously adding finely crushed peanuts to my food, intending to mock my allergy and make a scene. Watching this casual discussion about triggering a potentially life-threatening allergic reaction shook me to my core. Helena clearly identified me as the daughter-in-law she was referring to, and I have a severe allergy that could lead to anaphylaxis. Grateful for Daisy's warning, I thanked her for the heads up. She assured me she was just looking out for another woman and expressed relief that she could help. We exchanged phone numbers, and I informed her that I might use her name as an excuse to leave, to which she agreed. Leaving a generous tip, I returned to our table where Helena was visibly impatient and upset. She remarked on my appearance, accusing me of looking like I'd peed my pants. I explained that the waitress had apologized for the spill, downplaying it as a minor issue. Despite Helena's dismissal of the waitress's courtesy, I used the wet pants as an excuse to leave. Helena insisted that I stay and continue the gathering, but I expressed concern about the cold AC and my discomfort. Apologizing, I stated that I needed to leave immediately to avoid falling ill. Helena, clearly disappointed, tried to guilt me for leaving when she had extended an invitation to know me better. Apologetic yet resolute, I explained it was beyond my control and left, encouraging her to enjoy the rest of her time at the restaurant. After expressing my excuse, I left promptly and drove straight home. However, before reaching home, I made a detour to a gas station where I texted Daisy, urgently requesting the video of Helena discussing her plan. Daisy responded promptly, and armed with the incriminating evidence, I resumed my journey home. Carl's surprise at my early return was evident, considering how excited I had been earlier. Without exchanging words with Carl, I headed straight to the bathroom, craving the cleansing heat of a hot shower. Fearful that Helena might have tainted my clothes or hair with crushed peanuts, I scrubbed myself vigorously, repeating the process 3 times. Once done, I tossed my clothes into the wash and scrubbed my hands clean, Carl observing silently from the corner. When I finished, Carl gently prodded me to share what had transpired. Apologizing for my earlier paranoia, I confessed to encountering a childhood friend who worked as a waitress at the restaurant. Carl, puzzled, listened as I recounted Daisy's warning about Helena's sinister intentions. Unconvinced, Carl questioned the credibility of my friend's claims, prompting me to reveal the recorded conversation. As the video played, Carl's eyes widened in shock, realizing the gravity of his mother's actions. Memories of my previous hospitalization due to accidental peanut ingestion resurfaced, intensifying his horror at his mother's planned cruelty. Remorseful, Carl apologized profusely for dismissing my concerns about his mother's behavior in the past. He acknowledged the trauma I had endured and expressed deep regret for not taking it seriously. Grateful for his sincerity, I accepted his apologies, letting go of the resentment that had lingered between us. I understood Carl's perspective. Who could fathom their own mother actively trying to harm their spouse? We discussed his mother's sinister plan at length, agreeing that it was in our best interest to avoid meeting her in person ever again. We didn't want to risk any further harm. That night, Helena called Carl to complain about my perceived indecency for leaving early. Carl was prepared to address the matter. "We need to talk about your wife," Helena complained. "Yeah, we do. So, what do you have to say?" Carl responded. "I knew it. That wife of yours is beyond disrespectful. She left early today, after I took time out to spend one-on-one time with her. The audacity of her. It's high time you leave her. If she can't respect your mother, is she really worth it?" Helena insisted. "Why would she try to respect my mother when my mother tried to poison her?" Carl retorted. Excuse me. I can't act all high and mighty now." "What are you talking about?" Helena denied. "I have a video of you discussing how you were going to mix crushed peanuts into her food with Aunt Betty. Whether it was a joke or not, it was sick. I'm glad Billy was informed and got herself out of the situation fast. Neither of us wants you to visit us ever again. We can chat and video call, but that's about it. If you show up, we will release the video and get a restraining order against you. Goodbye, Mom," Carl firmly declared before ending the call. Carl's assertiveness was liberating, as he stood up for me, expressing the things I wished to convey to Helena from the start. Helena persisted in calling and texting, spewing insults against me. Carl occasionally picked up her calls, hearing her accuse him of disrespecting her by believing his wife's lies. Nevertheless, he always found a way to end the conversation. Initially skeptical about Helena listening to our firm stance, she kept her communication limited to calls and texts for months. Just as we began to relax, Helena decided to visit. Frustrated by her relentless insults, Carl ignored her calls for about 2 weeks. She was displeased with our decision, and in her determination to express her dissatisfaction, she chose to show up uninvited at our house. Her incessant doorbell ringing and shouts for us to open up became unbearable. Despite attempting to ignore her, the persistent noise eventually gave me a headache, prompting Carl to open the door. She pushed him aside and marched into the house. Wary of her evident anger and potential for causing harm, I tried to keep my distance. However, my curiosity led me to observe the confrontation. Helena wasted no time in expressing her displeasure. "Mom, what are you doing here? Didn't we? Don't you start with me, Carl. I'm your mother, and I have a right to know about what's going on in your life." "Sure, but you've never actually asked me what's been going on in my life. All you've been giving me are your unsolicited opinions on my wife." "They're not opinions. They're facts. Look, I'm sorry I ignored your calls, but you need to leave now." "I'm not leaving until your witch of a wife comes here and apologizes for defaming me." "Defaming? She didn't do anything like that. How can you stand up for her against your own mother?" "I didn't at first, but then I saw the proof, and I couldn't side with you anymore. So get out, please. That proof is fabricated. Like I'd ever try to put crushed peanuts in her food. I'm going to ask you to leave once again, or I will get the police involved." Helena refused to leave, escalating the situation by accusing me of being a family wrecker and threatening to make me pay in the worst possible way. Terrified, I was relieved when Carl called the police, who escorted her away. Subsequently, we filed for a restraining order, determined to maintain a distance from her. Helena persisted in portraying me as evil to the police. This false narrative hurt, especially since I hadn't done anything to warrant such hostility. Facing backlash from Carl's relatives for seemingly villainizing his mother, Carl took a bold step. He placed them in a group chat, sharing the video of Helena planning to poison me and explaining my severe peanut allergy. The relatives apologized and redirected their anger at Helena. Unwilling to accept responsibility, Helena retaliated by blowing up our phones, accusing us of defaming her again. Despite the challenging months, we decided to move on, blocking Helena everywhere and committing to no contact with her. Grateful for Daisy's intervention, I rekindled our friendship and life has taken a positive turn. We've hung out a lot, almost returning to our old friendship. With Helena out of our lives, we look forward to a better and brighter future.